Hello, this is Misael Cañenguez speaking, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you different activities that I have to complete after reading theories of trade from our textbook. With that said, we can get into it. The first thing that we have to do was that we have to choose three activities from the choice board to do by completing tic-tac-toe and passing through the center. So in my case, I chose all the ones in the middle. These ones, as you can see right here, I chose all the ones in the middle. Then I have to complete all the activities that were in each of the squares. Um, and as you can see, the first square is about emotions, in which I have to explain what fascinates me in regard to the topic from the text. Let's see, let's continue. And this is the first square. And well, what I personally found interesting about uh, three theories is the term political interference, since it's obvious that there is political interference in the markets. And it's also known that the economy around the world is controlled by politicians or political parties from the most powerful nations around the world. On the other hand, what seems troubling and controversial to me is that it's not a secret that governments get involved in the market in order to impact the economy around the world. And it can often be a highly controversial topic, and it's not to fuel political debate as well. Also, those who advocate government intervention argue the law of supply and demand is not enough to keep the economy running smoothly. And this intervention will protect against abuse and protect the overall success of the economy. So that's all the information that I found interesting in regard the topic for the first square. So I can say that is complete already. Secondly, secondly, in the square number two, we have to pick from 4 to 8 vocabulary words that I didn't know the meaning of, or were useful to understand the text. Then I have to complete a prayer model card for each word. Well, let's take a look at the words of terms that I chose for this activity. And the words or terms that I chose for this activity, as you can see right here, the first one is international trade. The number two was economic liberalism. The number three was mercantilism. And the number four, the word number four or term was sanctions. Okay, now let's proceed with the second part of the activities that we have to complete for this second square. And this is the first prayer model card that I created for this first term, international trade. Here's the meaning of the word international trade. And it says that international trade is the purchase and sale of goods and services by companies in different countries. Consumer goods, raw materials, food, and machinery all are bought and sold in the international marketplace. This is the picture that I chose for this term, and these are some of the synonyms that I found about international trade. The first one is export, the number two is foreign trade, the number three is world commerce, and number four and last one is international commerce. The sentence that I found about international trade is instability in the exchanges markets has certainly not prevented the growth of international trade. Okay, now let's proceed with the prior model card number two about the word economic liberalism. Here's the definition about economic liberalism, and it says that economic liberalism opposes government's intervention in the economy when it leads to inefficient outcomes. They are supportive of a strong state that protects the right to property and enforces contracts. They may also support government interventions to resolve market failures. This is the picture that I chose for this term. And these are some of the synonyms that I chose for this term as well. And the first one is free trade. Number two is non-intervention. The number three, free competition. The number four, free market economy. And the sentence that I found about this in regard to this term was the capital was cut off, the imperial government's push moves towards a new political and economic liberalism. Okay, let's proceed with the prior model car number three. Number three. And this one was about the term mercantilism. Here's the definition about mercantilism. And mercantilism is a form of economic nationalism that seeks to increase a nation's prosperity and power through restrictive trade practices. This is the picture that I chose for this term, mercantilism. And these are some of the synonyms that I found about mercantilism. The first one is commercialism, the number two is competition, the number three, industrialism, and the number four and last one, commerce. The sentence that I found about mercantilism says England developed many colonies under mercantilism in order to increase its trading territory. Let's proceed with the prior model card number four and last. And this one's the term that I chose for this one was sanctions. Here's the definition, and it says that a trade sanction is a trade penalty imposed by a nation or a group of nations on another country to punish it or change a particular policy. Here is the pictures that I chose for this term, and these are some of the synonyms that I found about sanctions. The first one says export sanctions. The number two says trade sanctions, and the number three, economic sanctions, and the fourth one, exporting ban. The sentence that I found for this one says, Washington imposed economic sanctions after India conducted nuclear tests in 1998. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, and finally we have to complete the last square, right? Uh, and the square number three. In the square number three, we have to write questions that I had about the topic before starting the reading text from our textbook. And these are the four questions that I had before I start reading the text about theories of trade. The first question that I had was, what are some of the issues in international trade? The number two, what does international trade depend on? What are some of the barriers to international trade? And well, some of the issues in international trade, as I mentioned before, are that some governments and state try to get into the market and ruin the economy sometimes when they don't have things that benefit them, right? That's some of the issues in international trade that is all controlled by political parties and the governments of the most powerful nations around the world. What does international trade depend on? International trade depend on different policies around the world. Because if a policy doesn't work, if someone wants something cheaper than the other ones, so those are going to sell those products in a more expensive way, and that's what international trade depend on fair prices around the world. That's what it depends on. And finally, what are some of the barriers to international trade? Some of the barriers of international trade are political situations, right? Because all this is around political things. Because if political things don't go right, so international trade won't go right as well, because some of the most powerful politicians try to control the international trade in order to affect different nations, to affect another nation economy, and that's what and those are some of the barriers to international trade around the world. And all right, this is all in today's video activity. Thank you so much for watching.